What is going on? It is Nate the Game Guy coming back with another video at hand, and today I want to show you guys my Nintendo Gamecube collection. Currently I have about 178 Gamecube games in my personal game room, not including variants, and I have to say, I truly love the GameCube. It is easily one of my favorite game consoles of all time, and I always love picking up new games, adding it to the collection, because it is just such a fun game console to play on. I've had so many great memories playing for this game console. I truly love the Nintendo GameCube. In this video, I plan to show off not only my game collection for the GameCube itself, but also to talk about some of my favorite games on the console, why I love them so much, and also talk about some games that I just haven't played yet that I do want to try. So, without further ado, let's take a look at some GameCube games that I've got in the collection right after the intro. So I'll start things off by talking about some of my favorite racers on the Nintendo GameCube that you guys can see right here. And I'll talk a little bit about some F-Zero GX. I really enjoyed this game. I thought it was a great collaboration between Nintendo and Sega, and both companies certainly delivered on a great game. Unfortunately, with F-Zero GX, it is really the last notable F-Zero game that has been put out by Nintendo. Sure, some can argue the release of F-Zero 99, but I'm talking about a true F-Zero game where it's its own thing. Unfortunately, you just haven't seen that from Nintendo for a very long time. Now, of course, I do want to talk about some Kirby Air Ride. I really enjoyed this game. I did enjoy the Air Ride sections, of course, but I have to say, my favorite game mode in this has to be City Trial, where it is an open world game mode where you go throughout the city collecting up different little power-ups to build up your stats, and then you get to go in, do different races, do mini games. It is just a really fun game mode. It has been responsible for so much replay value for me with that mode alone. And of course, I have to talk about some Mario Kart Double Dash. Unfortunately, it is the only Mario Kart game that has two characters on one cart at a time, but I do have to say this was a really fun game. I consider this easily to be one of the best Mario Kart games in the series, and I have to say this would be a concept I really wish Nintendo could bring back with the two characters on one cart concept, is because it was really fun during its time, and of course it would be great to see once again. With this little segment right here, I just decided to throw in a bunch of exclusive multiplayer games for the GameCube. These are just games that are a total blast to play when you've got friends over. I want to talk about Donkey Konga first. Donkey Konga was such a fun game where it had a pretty solid selection of different songs, and you would play the games with the bongo accessory. In my opinion, I really feel like Donkey Konga is what inspired Guitar Hero, considering this game came out before Guitar Hero. And of course, I have to talk about Super Smash Bros. Melee, the best-selling game on the Nintendo GameCube for great reason. This was an incredible game, whether you were playing alone or with friends, or really whatever you were doing in the game. This game showed a lot of love to a lot of Nintendo franchises, plus it had so much replay value. I really loved Smash Bros. Melee. It has been responsible for so many hours taken from my life. It is just a great game. And of course, I have to talk about the Mario Party games. Now, Mario Party 6 is my personal favorite Mario Party on the Nintendo GameCube. I just really like the boards and the layouts and the mini games that came out with Mario Party 6. Now, I do hear a lot that the Nintendo 64 Mario Party games are better than the GameCube ones, but unfortunately, since I haven't really played those, I can't really talk about those too much. But I'll say, from what I've played, I really do enjoy the Mario Party games on the GameCube, especially 6. Believe it or not, I've got even more multiplayer games that I love on the GameCube. The GameCube was a powerhouse when it came to offering great local multiplayer games. I'll start off by talking about the Super Monkey Ball games. Now, these games had great single player and great local multiplayer. The single player was really fun, how you would go on these different levels and you would have your monkey in a ball and you try to get from point A to point B, and the levels would get more and more difficult, but it was really fun. I really did enjoy these games, and they had great local multiplayer too, whether it was sports mini games with the characters or trying to launch your monkey in a ball as far as you could. These games certainly delivered on offering a great experience when you had friends over. Now, I do want to talk about some One Piece Grand Battle. If you guys have ever played Power Stone on the Sega Dreamcast, whether it was 1 or 2, this game will play a lot like Power Stone. If you guys have ever been itching for a Power Stone game or a game to play just like Power Stone, this is a game that I would strongly recommend for you. Even if you're not a fan of One Piece or anime, this is still a really fun game to play. It is a total blast when you've got a buddy over and you guys are duking it out, and I cannot recommend this game enough. And I do want to talk about Star Fox Assault. This is another game that offers a great single player experience, but if you have some friends over, I gotta say that the maps on Star Fox Assault are pretty impressive, where you have got like your Landmasters, your R-Wings, and you guys are just like going in trying to duke it out. This was a really fun game when you had some buddies over. And I do have to talk about 1080 Degrees Avalanche. This is a really fun snowboarding game. Now, I gotta say, don't take it for granted for just thinking that, oh, this is just some snowboarding racing game. I gotta say, for what Nintendo delivered with 1080 Degrees Avalanche, this is a really solid game. Great soundtrack, great racetracks. Like I said, this is just another game that if you've got some friends over, family over, this is another one that you guys gotta play, especially if you do enjoy snowboarding. As you guys can see right here, here are a few of my favorite exclusive single-player games for the GameCube. Now, some of these games do have some two-player aspects to them, but these are games that are mostly remembered for their single-player experience. I'll start off by talking about Sonic Adventure 2 Battle. Now, I do realize that the argument can be made that this isn't an exclusive GameCube title. After all, the original Sonic Adventure 2 was released on the Sega Dreamcast, but what makes Battle more unique compared to the Dreamcast release is that it comes with more features and more game modes, along with a few other things that the Dreamcast release did not have when it was originally released. Sonic Adventure 2 is easily my favorite game of all time, simply because of how solid the gameplay is, the story, the soundtrack. I think it is just an incredible game that I truly love. Now, of course, I do also have to talk about Metroid Prime. A lot of people were unsure at the time when this game came out if Metroid was even a good fit for the first-person shooter genre, and it turns out that it was a great fit for the genre. Metroid Prime is easily one of the best GameCube titles in the entire library for great reason. It has a lot of great places to explore. It introduced a new perspective with Metroid, and it was overall a very solid game. Now, I really did love the Pikmin games. I really enjoyed exploring the different places and how you had the fire Pikmin help you traverse through some of the fire areas, and of course you had your purple Pikmin introduced in Pikmin 2 that would allow you to carry heavier things easier, and just the different variety of Pikmin was a very cool aspect. I liked how you would just also collect these different ship parts and different collectibles. It was just a very fun series that was introduced onto the GameCube, and one of my favorites is Super Mario Sunshine. Now, some people do criticize the game because of how you are constantly going around places cleaning up goop and all that stuff, but me personally, I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the introduction of Flood. I liked the places that you could explore. I thought it was just a very cool perspective where it took the inspiration of Super Mario 64 and added a new twist to it where you would be exploring this tropical land landscape, and you were not only were you trying to explore different places, but you were also cleaning up different areas and all that stuff. I personally found the game to be very fun, but I gotta say, those are just a few highlights of some of my favorite single-player titles on the GameCube. Now, these three games right here are the rarest and most expensive GameCube games that I've got in the collection. Now, I haven't played Fire Emblem Path of Radiance, and I haven't played Metal Gear Solid The Twin Snakes, which is a remake of the original Metal Gear Solid on the PlayStation 1, which I did play and really did enjoy. However, I did play out of these three Chibi Robo, which I gotta say is a very underrated GameCube exclusive. What I really love about this game is its own charm that it comes with it. This game is essentially about a little robot that a family has added to their home, and this little robot has to clean up different sections of the house, perform different tasks to help the family out and explore through the house. You will also meet in the game pretty interesting characters which are themed off of toys, and to me, I feel like this game is kind of like Nintendo's own take on Toy Story, really. I think it's just a very incredibly underrated game. It is unfortunate that it is a pretty pricey game, but if you do have the opportunity to play it, I strongly recommend that you guys do check it out because, like I said, it is a very fun game if you give it a shot. Now I want to introduce you guys to some more underrated games on the Nintendo GameCube, and I'll start off by talking about Pokemon Channel. Now, Pokemon Channel, surprisingly to me, I found out some people have considered this game to be one of the worst Pokemon games in the series, and I'm personally surprised by that because it has gameplay that's very similar to Hey You Pikachu, and as someone who has played both games, I can honestly say that I enjoy them both. Of course, with Pokemon Channel, it has gameplay that is very similar to Hey You Pikachu, except take away the microphone and your communication with Pikachu, but still kind of keep the same gameplay aspects to it, and you get Pokemon Channel, except it's more focused around different channels that you get with your TV that you get at the beginning of the game. But for the most part, the gameplay is very similar to Hey You Pikachu, so if you did enjoy that game, I think you will most likely enjoy Pokemon Channel. Now, I do want to talk about Custom Robo. This is an incredibly underrated game that I love. Essentially, this game is all about you have your own robots going into arena battles, and just like the title suggests, you get to customize these robots for you to go in and take on different opponents. The game is incredibly fun, and personally, I'm very surprised that not very many people talk about it as much as they should when it comes to great exclusive titles on the GameCube. And of course, I have to talk about Puyo Pop Fever. Now, before Puyo Puyo Tetris would be released onto the Switch back in 2017, this was the last Puyo Puyo game that was brought over to the West. Now, interestingly, when it was brought over to the West, they changed the name to Puyo Pop instead of just Puyo Puyo to help with the marketing. Now, of course, with Puyo Pop Fever, it introduced the Fever mode that is very well known today in Puyo Puyo games. Now, I do consider the Puyo Puyo franchise to be very underrated as a whole, so of course it only makes sense that I put this game into this segment right here. But if for those that have never played a Puyo Puyo game, it is essentially kind of like a more complex version of Connect 4, and you have these little blobs called Puyos, and if you create a little chain, which basically a chain is when you have 4 Puyos put together of the same color, they will pop, they will create a chain, and essentially what you want to do is create as many chains, link them up as possible to where it'll be like multiple chains or combos at once, where it will send Junk Puyo to your opponent, so that way you can get the win, and you want to make sure that your opponent does not send Junk Puyo to you so you do not lose. It is incredibly fun, very underrated, and I gotta say, if you're looking for some underrated GameCube games, I would strongly recommend that you guys do check out Puyo Pop Fever. Now, as you guys can see right here, here are a few Nintendo GameCube games that I have not played yet that I really want to give a shot. Now, most of these are third-party games, but I will say I really want to give the Need for Speed games that you guys have seen a shot. Now, I've played just a little little bit of underground, but not enough to form an opinion. I only popped it in just to make sure that the game was working, tested it, all that wonderful stuff. But I do have to say, from what I've heard about some of these Need for Speed games that you guys have already seen, that they are some of the cream of the crop of the Need for Speed franchise. So I do want to enjoy these games sometime. Now, I also do want to talk about is Smashing Drive. I've seen some gameplay footage of this, and it kind of reminds me of Crazy Taxi, but with this time, it's a new perspective with power-ups, and instead of you going all over the place, it is essentially going from A to B with these power-ups. It seems like a pretty fun game that I would love to give a shot one day. And I have to talk about Battalion Wars. I remember when this game first came out, and I remember when Nintendo was really pushing that game with Nintendo Power Magazine. Now, at the time, it really didn't seem like my cup of tea, but now looking back at it several years later, I gotta say, this looks like a pretty solid game that I would love to try. Looks like a ton of fun, and since a lot of Nintendo enthusiasts already say so many great things about the game, I can truthfully say I doubt that I'm going to be disappointed when I pop this game in someday. Hey guys, thank you so much for checking out my video. Please be sure to check out these videos here, and here. After all, I post a lot of content when it comes to game collecting tips, and other video game related subjects. So be sure to keep an eye out every Monday and Friday where I upload consistently, and I'll be seeing you guys next time.